It's Miss Neal here. I hope you are enjoying your summer so far. I know I have been. I have been getting quite a few questions just about the setup of the lesson plans. Some people were still a little confused, so I wanted to do this voiceover. So forgive any blunders in advance because I am not a voiceover artist. But I wanted to do this voiceover really quickly just to go through and show you the different aspects of the curriculum. So we'll just jump right in. I'm going to show you a math example and a reading example. So jumping right in, that pink will drive me crazy. Give me 1 second. There we go. Much better. All right. So this is Unit 3, Grade 3, the 5th lesson, right up there. And they are adding using expanded notation. So the way this is set up, the first part of the lesson plan is specifically designed for teachers to practice and think through the lesson before having to actually deliver it. So let's look at what that means. Again, this is lesson 5. And here we have the standards so that we can make sure that we are on track with where we should be for their grade level. It has the aim, mathematician will be able to, that's that right there, add 2 and 3 digit numbers using expanded notation. So again, we're still in the practice portion of the lesson plan where the teacher is using this to prepare. And then here, this is where it gets into detail about what they should be able to do at the end of today, what they need to accomplish. So this gives the teacher some insight into what the lesson includes, what can be difficult, and where will the majority of time be focused. Moving right along, we have the key points. And what I like is that a lot of the key points are in I can statements, which gives the power to students to say, I can use expanded notation to add numbers into the hundreds accurately. I can regroup sums when my total is greater than 9 in a given place. And then a sum is the answer to an addition problem. An addend is a number that you add to another number. So this is what students need to know and be able to accomplish at the end of the lesson. And what we call that is the criteria for success. So you might see CFS going through the lesson plans, and that stands for our criteria for success. Our key points include just how they'll get there. And that details, again, for the teacher, what they need to do to get there. When we think about the assessment and criteria for success, we're specifically talking about, at the end of this lesson, how will I know I was successful? How will I know that all the students in my class were able to grasp the concept? What does that look like? What does a successful idea of the lesson look like? And so this is also on the lesson plan, which helps the teacher remind the teacher what that criteria for success looks like. Okay, we are getting into an exemplar response. And if there is no exemplar response in the lesson plan, the teacher designs that. Again, we need to know what does it look like when our students are performing at the highest level. If there's something missing, if we already have that exemplar, we can say, okay, so they grasped everything except this regrouping part. Here we have an exit ticket that was worked out by another teacher that also includes the criteria for success. So looking at this, I would look at this first and say, okay, here's what the student needs to do at the end of class, and then backtracking from there. But what Achievement First does, as we discussed, it already has all the information here. And then because we want to make sure that we are staying on track for what, even though we do not do the state test, and we want to make sure if we did, we'd still be on top of our game. So here's where it's aligned to our state test practice. And then we get into the materials. We have the student work packet, which I will show you below. And then here, this is what would be an anchor chart in the classroom. So this would be put up after one lesson so that the students can always have that example to look at. And then over here, we have some vocabulary. Now we get into the actual execution of the lesson. We get into the introduction where we state the aim and have students write it down. Then we have time allotted sessions. Again, this is scripted, but it's open for interpretation. If we find that we needed less time for this, is the introductory problem, which I'll show you in a moment. Remember Mary and Nora. So maybe I needed less time because the kids got it in no time. So then I would move on quicker. And then we talk about how this connects to what they learned in second grade. Remember, this was a third grade lesson plan. And what I love is that they also have partner practice already included. So as I am a teacher, am circulating the room, here's what I'm looking for, because I want to be able to have students talking on their own. And then at the end of that, I want to highlight those successful answers. So as I'm walking around, let's say Shayna Neal has accurately representing with the bar model or tape diagram, and then I want to show the bar model. So that show call, you'll see that quite a bit. That is how we continue to demonstrate using student work instead of teacher-led work. We use student work to say, yes, this is a great track that we're on. We can also use student work to say, okay, so where do we see a mistake? Where do we see a problem? And as we're doing that here, the show call literally means how am I'm presenting that information to the class. And then it gives you the details to show call two different representations. And when you're doing that, let's say we're confused about what that would, or why we need to do that. It gives you the reasoning here. We get further into the work. Again, this is the actual execution of the lesson. We have more of those scholar initials and show calls because as teachers are looking through, are in the classroom, they're doing laps, and those laps are to monitor different aspects of of the instruction. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. So again, this is all teacher prep. Over here, when we're thinking about our problems, if most students, if they have 2 out of 3 correct, here's how I proceed. If they have less than 2 out of 3 correct, here's how I proceed. Here's where we have some of those likely misconceptions. So things that the teachers are already thinking about and going through their head, which is all of this information here, it's already displayed for them. Then we have more practice in our workshop section of the lesson plan. And let's talk about the laps. As I'm a teacher and my students are working alone, I want to go through and see every student's work. And during my first lap, I'm looking to see that students are writing numbers correctly in expanded form. Period. Are they writing it down correctly? Step 1. If they're not, I'm going to go in and maybe put a little mark next to their answer so that they can rework it and figure out the misconception. On my second lap, I'm now looking for a conceptual understanding. Are they accurately adding the expanded notation and regrouping correctly? So I'm looking for 2 different aspects of the lesson to make sure that the students are successful. Then it gives me an intervention, it gives me a check for understanding, and an extension. So the intervention is, oh, I'm not really understanding. The extension is, I'm understanding, and I'm going to throw this on your plate too to give you some more information. There's a discussion aspect to where we're pushing the thinking to the next level. And then down here we get to our closure, which is our exit ticket. And that is the end of the teacher plan. So all of this portion here is just for the teachers. Now let's say your child is absent and they really didn't understand this lesson. You as a parent could use this information to go through and work with the student on the student packet. Here's what the students see. Here's my name. And up here, I'm going to write my aim. And here's my problem of the day. Remember, we talked about the Mary and Nora. And how that whole example was broken down. They thought through misconceptions. They thought through extensions. And that was just for the first problem of the day. Now that we've gotten some of those skills that we should have known in second grade, now we move into workshopping our lesson for the day. Here's our criteria for success, and here's what the students are seeing. Here's their independent practice. That's when the teacher is going on laps and monitoring so the students can get that one-on-one help. Here's our word problems, because we know we have to get some of that word problem practice in. And then we have our exit ticket, which is collected by the teacher and either used as a classwork grade or a quiz grade, just depending on the nature of the day. And here we have, again, we had the exit ticket up here that was fully completed. Hold on, let me zoom in for you. Fully completed with specificity and that criteria for success. And that's what the students are working on, and that's what we see to make sure that we can address what the students are working on. So what I love about this is the intentionality between planning for the lesson, executing the lesson, and the student work. So I hope that kind of clarified for you what the different aspects of the lesson plan include. And I will now do the example of the English lesson plan.